And now it's time to begin with the inaugural and the keynote session focusing on India's economic outlook, growth trajectory, and the opportunities ahead to be steered ahead by the chairman of Hero Enterprise, Mr. Sunil Kant Munjal.
So, Madam Finance Minister, you are truly the most experienced finance minister India has had. You have presented more budgets than anyone else, and you've held the helm of the country's economy and finances for a long period now. And this has been both an exciting and a turbulent time. And we are facing one today with wars, prices of energy going up, the multiple challenges of supply chain, and at the same time, the excitement of the growth that we see in India. Could you, in your words, tell us how you see the immediate future shaping up? And how do you think we as a nation are preparing or can prepare for the medium-term future that we see as well?
Thank you very much. And this is about, as you recalled, this is about my 4th visit to this. And it's always been a learning of sorts, because you come and meet different people, they have different concerns, and it's helped me to collate the inputs that I gather here. So I actually prefer coming here and spending some time. But of course, today is a bit of a challenge because of my health. The question which you've asked is probably the question every business leader has in his mind. I know my business is doing all right, but yet I don't know when a challenge externally will come. I'm doing good exports, but I don't know when a tariff can land on me, and I have no control over it. Similarly, the 3 large items which we import, paying foreign exchange, are all fluctuating, whether it is your crude, which luckily we have the capacity to refine, but the crude, not just the price of crude which keeps going up, but also the insurance cover and the risk which insurance demands to get your vessel going there and to get your vessel filled up and brought back. So price is a challenge. Foreign exchange reserve will have to be adequately kept for meeting these demands, growing demands. And growing demand is good because a growing economy requires these critical inputs. So it's the same thing as a business house, which will have these considerations before them, but for many of them, they don't have a say. They don't have a handle. So India's challenge is very similar. But of course, India's comfort is that you have a large domestic market, which is good enough with the consumption going up. But you still have a lot more intermediary and raw material products which you have to import. And that import is now under severe strain. So that's the challenge. And monsoon every year is a challenge for any finance minister. How will it work out? Will it be sufficient? Or is it going to be patchy, that some areas are going to be dry and some others are going to have excessive rain? That's a every year concern. But this year, because of the El Nino, I think we are preparing for not so good a monsoon. Of course, we have enough buffer stocks. Since last year, we've maintained, so there shouldn't be a food shortage. But for farmers, it'll have an impact because this year his income will be stressed out. So I think broadly, I'm not saying anything that you don't know, But these are the challenges, and I'm not sure how much of a provisioning can you make. Just for that one example of fertilizer import, we had during the budget very clearly said to ourselves that the Kharif we are sufficiently endowed with supplies of fertilizer so we can manage the Kharif. And we need money for tendering out for fertilizer that you may require for the Rabi, for which actually the supplies will start in November. Between the day of the budget and today, they've been at least three different major fluctuations. Some countries which do not want to get into the market, which are traditional suppliers, are no longer supplying. They want to stock it up for themselves. And there was fear that we are going to have short supply because those who have gone out are depleting the pool. But then came the news of China coming back, who had not been in the market for almost a year. So the supply was that shortage which people thought was offset. So 1 week you have a challenge, the next week that challenge is addressed, but newer challenges come up. So it's being ready for every such exigency.
The FMM, this is the finest moment of capitalism. Last week we have seen listing of SpaceX and creation of a trillionaire. So now the new buzzword in the world cap. I'll restrict myself to the subject I know, that is capital market. So this is the finest moment of capitalism, and farms and factories, they produce incomes for our workers and people at large. But capital markets produce wealth, which can create much bigger factories and much bigger possibilities. I mean, if you see SpaceX, it's based on the possibility of whatever can be done in space. So it's a very powerful wealth creating mechanism, the stock market. And we have been blessed with one of the most wonderful stock market in the world. There are only two countries which are compounded stock markets. One is US, of course, and second is India so far. So I have 2 points to make. One is the only way the way we have gone about in the past is because of relentless growth of 7 to 8%, and that has given to the market 13 to 14% kind of compounded growth in market cap. Now that has created a problem with the FIIs. FIIs today, they hold about 800 to 900 billion dollars of our stock, which is 16% of the market, 33% of the floating stock. In last 10 years, because we have done very well as an economy, our holdings, their holdings have grown at 3 to 4x, whereas my forex reserve has grown just about double, from 400 to 800 billion. Now we have reached a situation where forex reserve is just about 700 billion and their holding is 900 billion. So their holding to my reserve is less than 100%. So how do we, because they're very important, integral part of the entire system. How do we move forward from here in terms of this is there as a situation? We are doing very well. Growth is the only way out, and we are pushing the growth ahead. But when you grow at 7.5%, 8%, my corporate profits grow at 14, 15%. And hence stock market will also grow at 13, 14%. That will build their value of the current situation as it is to 1.5, 2 trillion in next 8, 10 years. So do you see, has it been, I'm just flagging the issue the way it comes in my mind. So any comment on that?
But 70% of the growth is ours, while 30% is theirs. 70% is our growth.
Yeah. It is our growth only which is creating challenge for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you've answered the question yourself in a way. Our own growth, our own participation in the market has really buoyed the stock market considerably. And as is the nature of the market, There are cycles when people make their profit, go out, come back, and so on. But not just leaving it there between the RBI and the government. We've done some analysis and come up with an announcement last week where the bond markets can be a very good, magnet to absorb those capital which can come in, making it into, FAR, so that the compliance routines are not going to burden people, and the withholding tax treatment which we've offered, we think will be the first step towards drawing some capital back, although we've at the moment confined it only to the bond market. But certainly, that's not the end of the story. We'll be doing more. We recognize we need more foreign capital to come in. But the fact that RBI has the fact that the RBI has now allowed public sector undertaking and banks to go out and pick money from outside, giving them a framework in which they can do it. And in that framework, a very important aspect is the hedging is at the RBI's expense. They don't have to hedge for the risks, particularly the currency related risk, the volatility, the exchange rate risk. That will be on RBI. And as a result, the banks can now go unfettered to raise capital from outside. So we have taken a very calibrated approach to make sure that the markets do receive the required investments.
Another point. Hello. Yeah. Another point which is more positive is that because of there is a unprecedented capex boom all over the world, thanks to AI build-up, which is one of the largest build-out all over the world. Second is defense preparedness. Third is energy transition, and fourth is GCC boom in India. All these four are combining into massive opportunity, even to Indians. I mean, whether in various forms, and it will become even more. But some of these opportunities are very short-termish in character. Like it may be there 16 months, 18 months, 20 months. So we need to respond to these opportunities very, very fast. Some of the corporates I met, they said, sir, it is not about the demand. It is about how fast we are responding in terms of supply, whether it is from regulatory side, whether it is from permission side, whatever it takes in India to get them moving, because that can also bring a lot of forex. So they are saying it's a real challenge is supply side. Is it in the minds of the government?
Of course, in fact, we've been engaging with the states, not just the center to have a policy on data centers and GCCs, but also talking to the states to make sure they understand that these are going to be immediate job generating investments. I'm not sure if it is 15 or 16 months, but it is certainly going to be, at least in the coming decade, a predominant way in which data is going to be used. And as long as it is happening in India, I think it's good for the data security, and also in the process of creating the jobs, you will give a certain vibrancy to the economy. So states are coming up with policies. In fact, many states have come, and not just with the policy, they've been on their toes to meet up with people, get the GCC coming in. Earlier, I was in Bangalore yesterday. Earlier, it used to be just Bangalore, probably somewhat Hyderabad, and probably somewhat here in Noida or Ghaziabad. Now you have cities like Tumkur, Mangaluru, meaning tier 2 cities are also becoming hosts to data centers. And it is just spreading so quietly. Not till you get the data, let us say, from the CIA and FICIs of the world, you really see how speedily it is spreading. And people have not treated it as, oh, what is this? What's data center? No, there is a layer of our Indian technicians and also youth who are catching on this very easily. So I think the story about data centers and GCC is a story where, as you said rightly, how speedily are you going to capture that advantage, benefit from that challenge. And I would think the rate at which I'm seeing states respond to it, the story is a good one. It's going positively.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ms. Sitharaman. I truly appreciate not just your making the time, but coming in this difficult personal situation. You're right, by the way, about GCCs. They have become the new miracle. We often used to say that India is too focused on the back end, low end work. These GCCs are replicas of the head offices of these companies. And we have 1,800 of them and a new one coming up every week. Actually, I said this to somebody, to a large multinational last week. And they said, no, it's not one a week. It's now 2 a week coming up in India. And this is a global consulting firm who actually looks at many of these being developed. So I think we have a unique set of opportunities ahead of us. And it is important that while we see many challenges, that we continue to focus on the positive, build those much more. In some sense, this is the path that China took, that don't worry about the problems, about the NPAs, etc. Let's just grow the size of the economy, and that will take care of a lot of it. And for us, it is important, especially because of our large population. I think growth is the only true answer that we have to turning India into the India of our dreams. But our competition has to be with the entire world, and more importantly, our competition has to be with ourselves, that we are constantly getting better, we are becoming more efficient, we are becoming more productive, and we are deploying our capital where it will give both immediate returns and also long-term benefit. And I think that balance is being struck by allowing us to leapfrog a few stages through technology. And it's a delight that the Prime Minister yesterday had 400 startups in France from India with President Macron present. So I think this is now getting recognized globally, and our building bridges with the world, signing FTAs, starting more trade agreements, building financial bridges. You've now shared UPI with countries like Singapore. Who would have imagined this 20 years ago, that we will be sharing technologies with countries like Singapore? So that there's a clear shift taking place. And I think it is critical that while, of course, we have to address the challenges, but if we do them in this positive manner, the positive spirit, and focus more on the growth, I think we have a better chance of addressing our challenges as we go along as well. And I want to thank you for the guidance that you have been providing to the economy and to the industry, and the hand-holding that the government has done through difficult times. That's what we want. We want you to make easy regulations, get out of the way, but be available as a fallback option in times of crisis, as we have faced over repeat periods of time over the last decade, including the COVID was a complete black swan event, which nobody could have imagined, nobody could have dreamt or planned for. And you stood steadfast. You came to the support of the economy and the industry and the people. And you didn't get swayed even by our own request to give the amount of support we were giving, and India came out better for it compared to many other countries. So big thank you for what you do every day for India, and a big thank you for being our chief guest today and setting the tone for the rest of the day. We have a very hectic schedule. We've squeezed this 2-day event into 1 day today as a response to the Prime Minister's call for conserving things, which is why you saw instead of the regular lamp, we've used LED as a lamp. So we're trying to signal to ourselves, to our entities, to people around us, that these things matter. Every little bit will make a difference, and each one of us does need to contribute. So thank you very much for coming in. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me over.
What a forward-looking session to begin the Mindmine Summit with. I would like to request Shri Sunil Kant Munjal, along with Ms. Shefali and Ms. Swati Munjal, to present small tokens of appreciation from our side to the Honorable Finance Minister and to Shri Raamdeo Agrawal. A big thank you to the Honorable Finance Minister for taking out time from her exceptionally demanding schedule to be with us this morning. I think her insights not only set the tone for the day, but has given us much to reflect on. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of everyone here, let's thank her for her leadership and vision. If you could please rise from your seats and extend a warm round of applause towards her as she exits the venue, and we bid farewell to her. And a big thank you to Shri Raamdeo Agrawal as well for sharing his perspectives on the session today. We had to cut this session out because the Finance Minister had to leave to attend to some pressing commitments. But we would like to resume this session along with Shri Raamdeo Agrawal. Over to you, sir.
So you raised an interesting question, Raamdeo, about ownership of India's economy by foreigners. On the one hand, we've actually been wooing this. We've been chasing FIIs, FDI, and you've raised an interesting concern that we are actually building our economy for the global ownership. So would you walk us a little bit through the pros and cons of this? Because obviously, it is also an advantage to get know-how, to get connections, to get knowledge, and to get resources.
Yeah. So, Sunilji, one of the things is that we have done brilliantly well. And since 2000, actually we got political independence in 47, of course. But we actually got financial independence in 2020. Because that's when my retail, thanks to digital infrastructure, they started coming 3 million customers per month. My demat accounts have gone from 40 million to 240 million. That started bringing tons of money month after month, almost 1 lakh crore per month. So that lifted the market big time. And that lifting of the market did a lot of good to all of us, but it also did good to the foreigners. And their $250 billion holding has become now 850, 900 billion. So whatever they sell, their holding actually keeps growing. It's like that, mythological thing. So आप कुछ भी कितना ही बेचो लेकिन वो बढ़ते आता है. So now we're in that kind of thing. If we grow it, my forex is kind of not sufficient to take care of actually that. So as a country, we will be working only to service FI holding by way of dividend and by way of exit. And, this kind of time when we have a lot of geopolitical concern, their exits become, that pressurizes the rupee. So rupee, we have current account surplus in March quarter. And yet, now look at what has been the implication. I am the fastest growing economy in the world. I am worst performing currency. My allocation in the emerging market, MSCI, has gone down from 21% to 11%. My all country allocation, MSCI, has come down from 2.5-3% to 1.35%. So, it's something I'm just thinking aloud how it can be. I don't have any answer for this, but okay. It's a subject which.
Let me, since you are the stock market, capital markets expert, let me bring another perspective here. We used to have the second highest savings rate in the world. Now that has gone down. But interestingly, that has gone into 2 or 3 areas, partially into consumption, partially into personal borrowings, and partially into the stock market. The SIP has almost become magical in the way it has brought funds into the mutual fund as a sector. When mutual funds get launched, often they would say, we will have a scheme with 20 stocks. But I've rarely seen one now with less than 30, 50, even 70 stocks with a long tail because of the regulations of the essential requirement to divide between large stocks, mid-size, and small stocks. Where do you think this will land up for the average Indian family who's putting monies into the stock market at this moment? Where do you see this going in the next decade or two?
In fact, because my growth compulsion, we will grow. You might be seeing in last 1 year, the response to all this crisis is 16 to 17% credit growth. It's a fuel to the fire. And that's why we are booming. And you might have seen, thanks to cut in GST, all the automotive demand, which is the first line of vertical consumption, is booming. And hence, my economy is growing at about 7.5%, 8%. And every single economist is getting it wrong. The consensus was 7.3, even for fourth quarter. They've been beaten down by 3 times. And yet, even RBI economists couldn't get it, because the wealth effect of the stock market is pushing the economy much faster. So I don't have any doubts in rupee terms, we'll do exceedingly well. I have seen 45 years of the capital market. Next 45 will be even more exciting, in rupee terms. But I really find it challenging how exactly the currency will move. So you will feel very rich in terms of rupee, local currency, but I only hope there is no more this kind of a geopolitical, convergence of risks from all sides. If that is not going to happen, otherwise, in dollar terms, you may not feel so rich. That's my sense right now.
So geopolitics has many dimensions, and we cannot wish away the way the world is currently operating. It in many ways is tearing itself apart through arguments, through fights, through wars, through commodity holdings. Technology has become another enabler for some and is excluding some. That's the other thing I think we have to factor into all of our calculations now. What would that do to our lives, to our economy, and therefore to our growth in the future? What is your view on this?
Yeah, so, you grow at about 7 to 8%, 8.5% on your current base. We are at about $3,000 per capita. So we can grow at that pace, and we should be very happy with that. Because if it has to double from $3,000 to $6,000 per capita, it is going to take 7 to 8 years, 9 years, maybe a decade. So that journey is on. But it has taken 75 years to come to $3,000 per capita, but it will take anywhere between 8 to 10 years to go to from 3,000 to 6,000. It's a massive buildup of wealth. And thanks to this internet technology, digital technology, it's not democratic. It's very, very consolidating. The winner takes it all. So we'll see emergence of multi-billion-dollar corporations and individuals who will win in very big. Maybe not in terms of trillions. Maybe it is some more time away for Indians, but getting $100, $200 billion empires by an individual will be very much in offing in next 5-6 years. So I think it's a very and we have been tested for the worst of the geopolitical crisis also just now. So we are becoming more resilient thanks to our domestic flow. And another point I would like to say, in last 20 years or 25 years, the country saved about $15 to $17 trillion and plowed back into the economy. Next 2025 will produce $47 to $50 trillion at par. I'm not counting the mark to market. So there is no dearth of capital per se. Technology might be in short supply, but per se there is no dearth of domestic savings to fuel the factories.
I was actually trying to bring you to that because there's not enough understanding of how India is building India. That how much Indian capital actually is getting deployed in building out the future of India's, all the capex that is being done, the bulk of it is actually still Indian monies that are coming in.
That's right. And actually, we'll have ample domestic capital. We need bit of support from world to not bring capital so much as the technology and managerial competence which is coming through GCC. So my sense is China has taken the manufacturing by miles ahead. They have literally, not that we cannot try, we must try. But I think services side, there is nobody close by. I do $425 billion of services last year, which has almost 100% value added. Whereas I do $470 billion of exports, where the value added is not more than 30-40%. So in effect, we are service powerhouse, and at 95 to 100 rupees to a dollar, I don't think anybody can come close to Indian services.
Again, I also think that what we are doing now in the largest manufacturing industry in the world is electronic hardware. And that's an industry from which we were completely absent. We did do a wonderful job in building the automotive industry, the auto component industry, the pharmaceutical industry. But one of the largest manufacturing industries we had actually left out. So the initiatives that are on at this moment, starting all the way from the entire silicon ecosystem, design, testing, manufacturing, fab facilities, packaging, I think in the next 8 to 12 years, we will actually get a significant step up in the manufacturing, and the downstream of that electronic hardware has a much more knock-on effect on other things we consume, everyday electronic things and things that we consume, whether they're in automotives or in white goods or in brown goods. You cannot do without them. All of them need this electronics. And once you have the base available, because so far we were actually seen as an assembler, only adding 7%, then 9%, then 13%. We have, to be fair, we have increased value add even in our phone industry, where we become large players, but the large value is still coming from overseas. So with this new step that we are now taking of actually building out the base electronic hardware industry, I think we have a massive upside available in manufacturing itself, whether it's for the defense industry or for the aviation industry, or it is for the automotive industry. Actually, there's a series of sectors that are now getting attention, some still not getting enough attention. If you think of real estate, it's not considered an industry today in India. But the reality is, it has more than 154 sectors directly connected only to home construction, and many more indirectly. So other than being a social good, it also has a multiplier, economic multiplier, which is almost as high as the automotive industry. Healthcare again is another one which has a massive multiplier on job creation. Tourism, the good thing is tourism has started to get built out in India. And when we saw foreigners walking away from India during COVID and other crises, actually the Indian tourists made that up. So it is wonderful to see, whether you go to Shimla or to Mussoorie or to Goa or to Kerala, that these are now filled with tourists from across the country. It's not just religious tourism that is growing. It is tourism of all kinds that is growing now, adventure, leisure. You are seeing people going skiing and people going rafting. So it is a very interesting shift that is taking place. And you spoke about the income levels going up. As the income levels go up, the aspirations go up. The desire to do better for your children, for the family, goes up. And that drives a lot of this behavior. You want better home, better education, better healthcare, and you're willing to borrow for that. And that's the other magic thing. The only concern I do have is I wish and hope the borrowing on individual and family balance sheets does not go beyond the number where it becomes unmanageable, because that's a crisis many countries have faced. And we did have this problem some years ago, as you know. At this moment, of course, both the bank balance sheets and the corporate balance sheets are better than they've been in a long... The bank balance sheets are the best they've ever been in history, actually. We've never had these kind of bank balance sheets as we see in India today. Corporate balance sheets, too, have become phenomenal. It's like the US has seen such massive monies, cash sitting on the books of companies and their ability to spend is enormous. So the question being asked again and again is, why is the private sector not investing the way it ought to if it has this kind of ability, both on its balance sheet and access to capital?
Yeah. I think it is all to do with the demand. I mean, private balance sheet is always conscious of the profit. They don't have social, I mean, they have social responsibility, but they cannot be doing it on the basis of unviable kind of possibilities. So, like if you see the after GST cut, as the demand for automotive started building up at rapid pace, every single company has announced their next plant. I mean, Maruti itself, it took maybe 40 years for them to set up 3 plants. And now they're talking about 3 plants in next 3-4 years because they can see the jump in demand for that. So I think private sector is very simple. If you have demand, they will come and produce and they will supply. So I would not be too much concerned about private sector not coming in because we should, and that's where the credit growth of 16-17% is extremely important. And I was thinking of asking you a question.
Sure.
What 95 rupees to 100 rupees to a dollar does to the exports of services and now manufactured products? I met few guys, export-oriented industry. They said, sir, now the problem is not about competitiveness. It's all about supply. I mean, he's not able to meet the demand. So have you, I mean, you are moving in the circles. So what's your sense?
So you're absolutely right. So as the rupee dollar parity changed, there was some concern because of a large import bills on energy, on defense, on electronic hardware. But at the same time, we have a large section of our economy and industry now who are exporters. They're actually delighted. You must realize, however, all of the benefit does not come to the companies because the importers are also smart. They're well informed. They will turn around and say, okay, I want you to reduce your dollar price because you are getting a higher exchange rate in your own country. But there is definitely an easier flow. The conversation becomes easier, the orders become easier. And that was a challenge only a few years ago for India, especially the crisis we faced when we had this conversation around tariffs with the US. So that has eased off. So it certainly added some incentive and growth momentum. The only 2 other points I'd like to bring up, because I see we have a minute and a half left, is one is as India and Indians are getting wealthier, I think philanthropy, large organized giving is the other thing that we have to get better at. Individually, Indians have always been giving, but large organized giving is a new phenomena only of the last 10 to 20 years in India, as Indians have become very wealthy, both corporate and personal. I think it is a need for us to incentivize it, as many other countries have done. There needs to be a tax break to encourage people because this is supplementing the efforts that the government makes. These go into areas like education and healthcare and clean drinking water and crafts and arts. And the second is, in the last word I used, there is a large section of the population in rural India, which is, while it's working alongside the farms, but they have artisanal skills coming down from centuries. We need to figure out a way to turn that into a full economy, to revive them, to contemporize them, to skill them, to connect them to markets, to give them safe manufacturing practices, teach them how packaging is done, how business is done. And the potential there is to create over 100 million new sustainable economic opportunities. And that's an area we've not looked at all. It is as powerful, if not more, than almost any industry sector that's available to us today. So we have an India that is growing. We also have latent potential in India, which can grow. So I'm a great optimist on this country. I think we have an amazing future ahead of us. We have not taken care of all of our challenges yet. Poverty still continues to be the biggest challenge in this country. The extreme differences that are taking place between the top and the bottom of the economic ladder, and the availability and visibility of information which gets people upset and angry. And I think that is what we need to address very quickly as we go out and build India's economy to be one of the leading economies and to build India to the nation of our dreams. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming in for the morning session. I do want to offer a special thanks to the FM. As she said, this is the 4th time she is actually coming for the Mindmine Summit. And Raamdeo Agrawal, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
You are truly a respected voice from the capital markets of India. People look at you for ideas. People look at you for stability because you have demonstrated stable ideas for a very, very long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A big thank you, Shri Raamdeo Agrawal, the chairman and co-founder of Motilal Oswal Financial Services, and Shri Sunil Kant Munjal for sharing such powerful perspectives on India's economic direction, leadership, and the choices that will shape our future ahead.